What is up? My name is Thomas Grana, also known as DJ Microdose, and I wanted to give you a walkthrough on my live streaming DJ system.
Microdosing.
Microdose, 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 microdose.
Microdosing. Microdosing. Microdosing.
A microdose is simply a little teeny dose of something.
It all started here with the Pioneer DJM-900 Nexus 2. You can see it's a separate mixer from the two CDJ 2000 Nexus 2s that I have. I originally started live streaming using the Pioneer DJM-Record app. I just used my iPhone with an iPhone cable using the send return feature on the mixer, and I would run a cable to my phone, which I had on a phone stand. I originally started with an iPhone on a selfie stick clamped to a light stand using some standard clamps. I ended up deciding I wanted a little bit more quality. I was looking for ways to increase production value and ended up getting served ads through Instagram for these NanoLeaf lights. I went for the 12-pack starter kit, which comes from these 12 individual triangles, which you can lay out in any configuration. Also came with this little rhythm add-on, so you can tell by the sound of my voice that this thing is activated. And so when I'm actually playing here with my reference monitors or the sub that I have underneath here, picks up the sound really well and moves dynamically with the sound, which is cool. So when I was using the iPhone, I was trying to figure out ways to increase production value beyond just lights. So I had this Dynamic Perception Stage 0, mainly for use with time-lapse and motion time-lapse, that I thought would be really cool to incorporate for static video. I had this crazy rat's nest, which we'll go over here, with a Stage R, also from Dynamic Perception, rigged up to hold my iPhone. It was a really elaborate way to get my iPhone to move back and forth or dynamically through the shots. While I was DJing, I had it set on a ping pong effect, so once it reached one end or another, it would just ping pong back and forth through the entire duration of my set. I try and see through this rat's nest of cables that I have going on here to see that this system is actually much more simple than it appears. I've got two tripods, both Manfrotto tripods, holding up a blue 6-foot slider rail system here. And on either side of the 6-foot rail, there's these little clasps that hold this belt drive. It's a rubbery piece of belt drive that goes to this dolly system. And the dolly system slides back and forth on this blue rail. And I have a power extension clamped to this, so that you can essentially run power to any of the devices up here that need it. One is a DC power pack that gets AC power and is rubber banded to this little Dynamic Perception controller, which has 3 motor attachments to it. And the 3 motor attachments are motor number 1, motor number 2, and motor number 3. And so what those motors do is pan, tilt, rotate. So it's essentially a really fancy step-up motor that allows your camera to move dynamically. And you can see that I have a clamp, an L clamp, with a dual battery pack that holds 2 Canon LP batteries. This is a Canon 7D, which we'll get into the settings a little bit more. I have the kit lens that comes on the 7D because the lens that I'm actually using here right now is the Canon L Series 8-15, which I use as a super wide angle fisheye for the DJ production sets. I've got a little Aputure ALM9 light on here with a little bit of diffusion and a blue gel on here. It's all magnetic on how it attaches, and that just gives me a little bit of ambient light when it gets really dark in here. I normally do not run it with the blinds open here, but you can tell that this room is pretty small, but for production value, it does exactly what I need it to. I'm running consistent power through this micro USB cable, which is an orange cable, just through a little 5 volts 1 amp iPhone adapter into a power strip. So on my Canon 7D, I went ahead and loaded the Magic Lantern software on here. I've got the shutter set to sticky shutter, And what that does is keeps your camera from turning off during, you know, a live stream. The normal Canon 7D goes for about 30 minutes before it stops the recording or before it shuts down. So the sticky half shutter option allows you to keep that going. It kind of mimics the shutter button being pressed halfway down, which is like keeps your camera on and recording past that half an hour mark when you're live streaming. And the clear overlays option right here is set to take your HDMI feed and clear out all the bottom crap about exposure control and your focus metering. So this is Magic Lantern. I'll put a link to their website in the description. Without it, your normal camera again would shut off about 30 minutes into your live stream and have all that HDMI overlay crap when you plug in your HDMI cable for the live stream. I'm running an HDMI out of my Canon 7D, and I've just rubber banded the cable in here so that it has a difficult time coming out even if it were to get pulled. And this HDMI cable runs down here. Another rubber band situation to not get unplugged. This is a Blackmagic Ultrastudio Mini Recorder, which essentially takes HDMI feed and passes it into a feed that your computer can understand, which is a Thunderbolt cable. And I'll follow this cable over here to my computer, which I'll show you my computer setup in a second, but I have the Thunderbolt cable being converted into a USB-C because I have a MacBook Pro, USB-C touch bar. So I want to show you all how this system works. Again, it kind of looks like a rat's nest, but it's fairly straightforward. You have your controller that has 3 different cables that run to each one of the motors. You have a power cable that goes from this rigged up power switch that I have clamped onto the dolly system. And this power switch gets converted from AC to DC power. And then when you take this, which goes from the DC power adapter into this battery, now you'll see the system is engaged, and this little guy puts out a Bluetooth signal which your iPhone or Android can pick up on. So this actually gets controlled by the NMX app on your phone. Got a little folder here, dynamic perception. You turn it on, it finds your device that you're using, you hit go, and you essentially have this cool little touch panel gear system for your camera here. So I've rigged this rat's nest of wires up so that when it slides back and forth using the slide feature on the app, none of the wires catch, and it has plenty of slack and play to be able to move back and forth for me to not have to worry about it while I'm DJing. And then just in case I have those rubber bands, fail-safes in place. So as far as sound output goes, I've been using just a USB thumb drive and then connected the 2 CDJs through one networking cable to essentially take USB and then link to USB on this system. So as for the actual music that I use, I comb SoundCloud, my favorite DJ set lists, Spotify, iTunes, Beatport, the radio. I'm constantly on the search for new music, and that's what really is the backbone of this production. I've got the XLR out going underneath the table to a Behringer Eurolive 1200. And this has 2 XLR outputs that I go to my Pioneer Built 8 speakers. And even though these are studio reference monitors, rather than like a live PA system, they do the job perfectly for just being indoors. There is no tether behind here. They're just purely XLR in, running power, connected to these speaker stands, which I've actually done a review for in the past. I'll link up here in the YouTube video on that review. But the Behringer Eurolive 1200 actually has 2 tethering ports, and that's actually really important to my live streaming system. Here, I'll take a look at the back. So I've got 2 in, 2 out, and 2 through. Those through ports for XLR get channeled over here and into this preamp. So I've got a Scarlett Focusrite 2i2 XLR input preamp that takes the two XLR channels and essentially merges it into one feed that my computer can pick up on. And again, I have the MacBook Pro 15-inch touch bar Retina that is being fed through USB to a USB-C, and so the video is independent of the audio that comes into the computer. I wanted to dive into the computer programs that I use a little bit. I'll be using OBS, Open Broadcaster Studio, to foster the live stream and feed it right into Facebook Live. So I've just got a few little additions here that I wanted to talk about. I've got a standard Shure microphone that I use that runs XLR into the microphone port of the DJM-900 Nexus 2. I use some Bose Quietcomfort active noise canceling headphones to kind of go between my mixer, and then I also plug it in mid-set to the computer to be able to monitor live stream. And the active noise canceling really helps when I have, you know, these drivers in my ears and I need to make sure that the live stream quality is good. A custom headphone stand. So as far as different channels on the mixer, I primarily go with 2 and 3, you know, because they're in the middle. Channel 2, channel 3. Sometimes on a rare occasion, I'll plug in my turntable, and I like that on my left-hand side. That'll go through the phono ports on channel 1. And then I also keep channel 4 open. I've just got a standard RCA left and right out to a 3.5 millimeter, you know, headphone jack. And I've been known to have 2 computers over here, one for more monitoring or feeding music into the DJ inputs. And then I'll have one just for commenting and keeping up with the live stream. And on that computer, I'll plug in the 3.5 millimeter channel 4 to be able to do live requests and, you know, look up YouTube videos real time to be able to play into my mixer, which then again feeds out to the live stream and picks up on the live streaming machine. I've just got your normal standing fold-out table, but got this tablecloth on Amazon. I'll put a link for it down below. And then also I've got these bed stand raisers, and it gives it an extra 6 inches or so, and it really gets the equipment the right height. As far as some last minute stuff, I always have a few extras here, you know, gaff tape, more clamps. I have my vinyls here in a box if I need them. I've got tools for the slider, you know, Allen wrenches, screws, keys. Another important feature is the clock. My wife, when she's headed home, it's very important to know when she's getting home and be able to see that easily when you're DJing. That's all for this video. I typically like to go live at least once a week. It's been on Mondays recently. I've left links for everything that I've talked about down in the description. And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on how to better this live stream, I'm open to suggestions. Just leave them in the comments down below. And I'll see you next time. Peace.